Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. For more information about them, visit their website, briargreavesinsurance.com, or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And if you give them a call soon and see how Briar-Greaves can help you and your insurance needs, you will automatically be entered into a raffle to win free tickets in the lower bowl section at Raymond James Stadium for the Bucs-Falcons game on Thursday Night Football taking place in December. That is the Creamsicle game. It's the Creamsicle game between the Bucs and the Falcons. So give Briar-Greaves Insurance a call and see how they can help you and get entered into that raffle. It is a Thursday edition of the Pewter Report podcast. The Bucs are on a bye this week, so no head-to-head matchup to talk about. So it's a good time to kind of take a state of the union for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How are they doing? How we feel about them moving forward? And give out some mid-season grades, because we are pretty much at the halfway point for this team. I think overall they're in a pretty good spot, but we'll expand upon that further and give some grades to player positions and the players themselves for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'd love to get everyone's thoughts today as we give out grades for Baker Mayfield and the running backs and the receivers and the defense. We'd love to see everyone's input on that as well, because we love our fans and we want to be as interactive as possible with everybody. So let's get to it. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is my fellow colleague and co-host of the show, Adam Slavon. Hello, Adam. How we doing?
Matt, we're doing great. Really excited to be on today's show with you. And for those watching in Tampa Bay and Florida in general, you have to be enjoying the weather right now. I mean, it's gone, like the humidity's away. It's been in the mid-70s. So I'm really excited for the show and kind of taking a step back, as you said, because we're at the season's halfway point and how it stands. I mean, the Bucs are 6-2. Things are looking good. And overall, you have to be pretty happy with where they are right now.
Right. If we said before the season, hey, the Bucs are going to go 6-2 heading into the bye, I think a lot of Bucs fans would sign up for it. It would mean big time wins, important wins, and some of them loom a little bit larger than others. Like I think before the season, we didn't necessarily know how good the Seattle Seahawks were going to be with Sam Darnold going to their team and some of the pieces they had trading DK Metcalf, but
yeah,
that win looks a lot more significant now than it did when the schedule came out in the spring. So definitely a lot more positives than negatives. And before we go position by position, Adam, let's get your thoughts on the kind of overview of this team, what you like, what you don't like, and how you think it's going to shake out for this team when they come out of the bye and play New England in the following week.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And like Todd Bowles, he spoke on Monday after the Saints game, and he kind of gave a State of the Union address, if you will, about where the team stands at the midway point. And overall, he seemed pretty pleased, especially with the defense kind of making strides, because you look at it, and who would have expected Tampa Bay to be tied for the third most takeaways and then have the third most sacks as well? So the defense, especially as of late, has really come on strong. The offense, it's kind of like a tale of two halves, because they started off so hot. And then the past two games against the Lions, against the Saints, they've kind of struggled a little bit. So I'm curious to see. I know the offense has been decimated by injuries, but kind of overall looking at it, they're 6-2. So, you got to be happy about that. But more than that, I'm really pleased with their overall resiliency. I mean, so many injuries, they would have had every excuse to maybe, be sitting below 500 right now. And people would kind of be defending that and being like, oh, they lost Mike, Chris, Bucky, Luke. Like, you can go on and on. But overall, they fought through it. They got guys like Luke Haggard out there playing. Sterling Shepard, he's looked as good as he has since probably his prime with the Giants. I mean, they've gotten contributions from everyone. So overall, you have to be pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the adversity thing is big. And we've seen that with this team before, but it comes in different forms. Like, I think the past couple of years for the Bucs, overcoming adversity has kind of been, shooting themselves in the foot and then digging out of a hole because of it. And mostly it was because of just overall losing streaks for this team. And we saw the injuries that they had last year, and it was rough, especially in the secondary. And then this year, it's kind of just as bad, and yet the Bucs have found a way to scratch and claw and find more ways to win than other ways to lose. And you just kind of pointed out a lot of the injuries that this team has had that they've been able to overcome. And one of the big things for me when it comes to Todd Bowles is kind of sticking to his word. I mean, what he talked about in the offseason is, I want ball hogs. I pretty much said as well, like, we need to upgrade the defense and the issues that we had last season. And it's just so funny now because you look at last year and the secondary was a major problem for this team because of the injuries. But now this year, with the influx of youth that they've had on this team, with rookie Jacob Parrish being huge and Antoine Mayfield Jr. turning back into the all-pro player that he once was, and Tyke Smith is one of the most fascinating players in the league and doing a great job with him moving to strong safety. Jamel Dean having the best year of his career with this crazy.
Yes.
Out loud. It's so funny. Like, all the players that we've talked about in the secondary, and it's the guy that got the contract extension with Zion McCollum. Not that he's playing bad, but he's probably played kind of the worst when you compare it to some of the other guys. And I know it's not exactly, point A to point B with the different positions, but to me, the secondary just becoming a point of strength now where it wasn't last year has been big. And I know everyone will turn to the Seahawks game and be like, well, what happened there? I would counter that with, well, what happened against San Fran, getting 6 sacks against a team that had their number for several years? How about only allowing 3 points and having 2 defensive touchdowns taken off the board while also getting a defensive touchdown with Anthony Nelson? I think if the defense, and they're not going to look like how they did against the Saints every single week, but if the defense can harness into what makes them a great unit, can get them very far into the postseason.
And I would agree with that. And also, like, the past 3 games in general, I mean, outside of a couple big plays by the Lions, you've kind of see the defense taking that next step after, struggling to put it all together for a whole game against the Seahawks or the Jets. Like, they really did against the Saints. You could argue a couple plays in the Lions game where the officiating also wasn't that great, and it could have been a different ball game too. So I think the defense really has been impressive, and there's just been so many more impressive players, I think, with this iteration of the Bucs team than disappointments. Because Zion McCollum, you could argue, is one of the most disappointing players, but he's still been like an above average corner. He hasn't been detrimental to the team's success. And you could look at Servassier, maybe say, oh, he isn't the answer everybody thought he was, but even he's starting to play better in the past couple games, Matt. So when you look at the roster, I mean, just overall, a lot of above average performances, I think, have really been the catalyst for kind of augmenting against all the injuries that they've had.
Oh, no doubt about it. And yeah, I should reiterate, like, Zion's not playing bad. It's just like when you see Jamel Dean have 3 interceptions and the forced fumble, and Antoine, what he's doing, and Tyke leading the team in tackles and stuff like that, it sticks out a little bit more. And then offensively, kind of the same thing where you have a rookie standout, almost 2 rookie standouts with what Tez Johnson has been doing too. And really, for me, the offense, it's just kind of more about keeping afloat. They've been a cardiac team for sure. Great comeback wins at the end. Baker playing at a high level, though not exactly trending in the right direction, but just being able to get out there, put some points on the board, be big time in crunch time, and get some good contributions from everybody. I think the offense right now trying to stay afloat, and then once the reinforcements comes, I think they'll be fine.
And Matt, before we kind of dive into the player grades, like we've kind of mentioned the offense and the defense a lot here, what grades would you maybe give Todd Bowles and Josh Grizzard? Because when I look at things for Todd Bowles, I think he's taken a massive step this season compared to recent seasons and letting the little things kind of lead to losses. And then at the same time, when with Josh Grizzard, all the injuries he's had to deal with has been absurd, like something that Dave Canales didn't have to deal with or Liam Cohen.
No doubt about it. I'll start with Todd. I mean, it has to be an A. If you want to argue A plus, sure, be my guest. But I'm going to go with an A right now because I still think there can be room for improvement in a couple of different areas. But, he's corrected all the things that have gone wrong in his previous coaching career. I think clock management, time management has been exceptional this year. and that was great on him for hiring Zach Beislein to kind of help him with some of those decisions. He's completely revamped the defense, getting things done in that way. And he hasn't been afraid to make personnel changes. And that's been something that has hurt Todd before. He's usually like a week or two late to put in the other guy for whatever the case may be. I also, like, for example, the offensive line. They could have just went into that first game and, put Charlie Heck at left tackle and just leave it as is. But, he configured with Josh Grizzard and with Kevin Carberry and said, okay, I'll be the one to say it. This is our best unit. And it was moving around Grant Barton and everything like that. Even putting in Dan Feeney in the most recent game, they didn't have to do that. I mean, they could have gone back to Michael Jordan, even though he wasn't 100%. They could have gone with Elijah Klein, but he opted for Dan Feeney. So I think when you combine all of those things, it has to be an A, of course, with the record as well. And Bruce Arians, who was on the show yesterday, he said that, he's up there with his picks for coach of the year. He said he's the NFC coach of the year. The only problem for Todd Bowles is in the AFC, what the Colts are doing probably is leaning towards the Colts right now. And I get that, but there's still a ways to go. Josh Grizzard, I think it would have been an A up until the last two games. Obviously, against Detroit, it wasn't pretty, and it's not all his fault. Baker definitely missed some throws. But you look at that game against the Saints, and you can look at it both ways, and I see both sides of it for sure, with Bucs got to be able to get a yard from the goal line. I also go back to, maybe they could have been able to get a little more creative running the football at the goal line, maybe not just stuffing your head up the middle every single time and potentially, I don't know, pitching it to the outside or whatever. I still think overall Josh Grizzard has done a great job. I got to give him a B+, though. I can't give him an A after the last two games, but I think a B+ is certainly pretty good overall. But how do you see it?
I would see it as Bulls getting an A and completely kind of turning the tide on. Like, there were so many fans that were calling for his job after last season. And even we were like, we can't lose Liam Cohen. Right. But with how Bulls has kind of navigated things, he's always been that leader of the team. And you kind of see the team not only resembling his leadership, but also Baker Mayfield's. And this is like a no nonsense, never get too high, never get too low team. And a lot of that, it stems from the head coach. And when you look at Josh Grizzard, I think just based on extracting the most out of Baker Mayfield through like the first 6 games, everybody's like, oh, Baker Mayfield for MVP, maybe for president in a couple years from now. But the way that he's played, it has been phenomenal up until the Lions game and the Saints game. And just dealing with all the injuries, I would have to say a B+ too, kind of hovering between that B+ range.
Yeah. Baker does have a presidential middle name, so
he does. Yeah,
it is possible if he wants to run for office. He has my vote as well. So shout out to Baker, but he's still got a long football playing career ahead of him. And speaking of Baker Mayfield, let's talk about the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Was once in the MVP conversation. He currently sits, of course, with a 6-2 record, because overall records kind of matter more to quarterbacks than it does any other position. But he's thrown for 1,919 yards. That puts him at 6th in the league. He has 13 touchdowns. That puts him a little further back with 11. And you got to remember, he didn't have a touchdown pass that last game. But only 2 interceptions on the season. That's fantastic for a quarterback that started every single game. Plus, when you factor in that 6-2 record. So, Adam, what grade are you giving Baker Reagan Mayfield after the first 8 games of the season?
The first 8 games, I would give him an A- because, like, through the first 6, I would have given him an A or A+. Like, out of his world, out of his mind, he's been playing. The past couple of games, though, Matt, I've started to see more struggles with the offense. They only had 9 points in Detroit, and then the only offensive touchdown came on the Sean Tucker run in the last game. So you haven't really seen Baker play like Baker the past couple games. I don't know if it's because even he's dealing with an injury and not being 100% and kind of everything going on around him. The one saving grace, though, is he hasn't turned the ball over really at all. Only 2 interceptions this year has been really great. And Josh Capo and I are kind of doing a series. He just came out with an article like less than an hour ago about how Baker Mayfield is still evolving. At 30 years old, he's still finding ways to get better. And that's stemming from his ability to throw the deep ball, finding Emeka Egbuka or Tej Johnson, whoever's running routes down there. but then also his scrambling ability. He looks like a completely different quarterback, just, extending plays, keeping things alive, and running for clutch first downs. I mean,
Yes.
as a leader, you give him an A+. And I think on the
Yeah.
field, A-. There's still some things you want to see him. You want to see him throw more touchdowns, score more points, and he's going to need to after the bye week because they play the Patriots, the Bills, and the Rams in that order. That's a tough slate.
Yeah, the mental capacity, the will to win, everything like that is an A+. If it was just the first 5-6 games of the season, it's absolutely an A+ as well. And while I don't think he should get knocked for like a game where he doesn't throw a touchdown pass, the Bucs only scored 1 touchdown in that game. And
Yeah.
therefore, I think you can knock Baker Mayfield for that. Like I mentioned before, he missed some throws against Detroit. I think everyone would agree with that was his worst game of the season by any means. But he didn't exactly bounce back the way I thought he would, and many of us thought he would, going up against the Saints in the following week. And once again, he had some overthrows that were too high. And at this point, part of Baker's game is his ability to scramble if he's not able to find the open person right away. He is pretty good at extending plays and being able to throw on the run. Now, also, I will say, he looked much better in that second half against New Orleans than he did in the first. And I think that's got to be a credit to Josh Broussard as well, because if you remember that first drive of the second half, they got him out of the pocket, throwing on the run, and all of that good stuff. Now, with all that said, we have to remember all of the comeback drives, some great games. The one against Seattle, of course, where he absolutely balled out and he got pissed off at the fan and was yelling and everything like that. So it's tough not to have recency bias when you're just looking at the most latest thing that kind of went on. I'm going to go B+ with Baker Mayfield. Even though he's not trending in the right direction, this can easily become an A and probably get back to an A+ if he gets back to, 225 yards and 3 touchdowns or whatever the case may be. But the mentals and everything are all right there. Like I said, his will to win and his ability to change plays and just have a commandment of the overall offense, being able to go finding the right play.
Yep.
I think my favorite touchdown by Baker this season was against San Francisco, where he audibled last second, and then that got Cameron Johnson wide open for his first career catch and his first career touchdown. So I'm going to go B+ for Baker Mayfield, but he's certainly, when I say B+, he's at like an 88. Like he's not far from an A. So yeah. HK Bucks also says first 6 games he was A+. Last 2 he was roughly a B-. I'd say A- is a solid average for sure. Yeah, I mean,
in that range.
I think anything below B+ would be kind of asinine to say. But yeah, everyone feel free to give your grades when it comes to Baker. Ricky Camacho says, "Give me an A- all day. That isn't the Super Bowl."
Yeah. Does need to play at an A level the rest of the way if they want to go that far, but it isn't just Baker. I mean, it's the rest of the team around him. But Baker's also that kind of quarterback where he makes the players around him better. Like a big emphasis for him heading into the season was taking on more offensive responsibility, not only mastering the game plan, but kind of also coaching up those younger wide receivers. And you've seen that on the field with Tej Johnson, Cam Johnson. Like he's really getting the most of everyone he's playing with.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He's a good leader and a motivator as well. But let's turn our attention to the running backs, which has been a pretty out of control situation. Really, running back and wide receiver have been kind of out of control. By the way, Kyle Dugan saying University of Tampa grading scale, an A-B. Shout out to all the Spartans, both on this show and watching the show. But running back, you had Bucky Irving up until week 4. Bucky Irving has been out ever since. Rachaad White took the reins as the starter. And then finally, we saw a little bit more of Sean Tucker this latest game, punching in his second touchdown of the season, being the leading rusher against the New Orleans Saints. So when you add in Bucky, Rachaad, Sean Tucker, a little bit of Josh Williams as well, how do you see this running back room shaping out, Adam?
Ooh, man, when you look at it and you compare it to last year, there's just been a regression. Like there's been a lack of explosive runs. And Rachaad, since he's come in and filled in for Irving, he's kind of been that chain mover. And he's had some physical runs, but overall, I'd give it a C grade. I mean, this isn't the
Interesting.
explosive running game that's really complementing Baker Mayfield. Like, Baker Mayfield has had to shoulder more responsibility because the running game hasn't gotten going. And I think you saw that to some extent in Detroit, why he threw 50 passes compared to 11 runs, because the running game really hasn't gotten off the ground. Sean Tucker's averaging 3.3 yards a carry. Bucky Irving, when he was out there, he was averaging 3.3. Rashad White, I think he's at like 3.7. They're just not explosive and efficient enough. And I think some of that, you can look at the offensive line and say they really haven't had a steady 5 offensive linemen game to game. Like, that continuity, that chemistry that you saw last year, it's just not there this year. And I think the running game is suffering for that. And right now they're really just average.
So it's interesting because we're grading the running backs, but not technically the running game.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. The running game has to be pretty much a C. But then I go and I think about the Bucs-Texans game, the pass to Bucky Irving on the final drive that got them all the way down the field. I think of the Eagles game where Bucky Irving had the 72-yard catch and run down the field. It's not a running play, but it's a running back
I get that.
doing it. So when I factor that in and what Rashad White means as an overall pass blocker, and also, like, I'm not giving with the running game, like, the numbers have been skewed as well with, like, Baker scrambling, but that obviously doesn't count towards the running backs. I still think they've been super helpful in the passing game, which salvages their grade a lot more. I don't think you're wrong with the C by any means. I'm going to give it a B minus, though. I like what HK Bucks has to say. For the receiving upside, the running back group has given it a B minus, but it's barely out of the C range. The running game needs to be better. This is not even nearly close to the group that it was last season. And some of that does fall on the offensive line. It's not just Baker and Rashad and Bucky, but I am curious coming out of the gate. Like, I don't expect Bucky Irving to be ready to go just yet. I mean, I think this is going to be something that's going to keep him out pretty long. I hate to say it, Bucs fans, unfortunately, but Bucky doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon. Like, I would say Luke Gedeke is probably coming back before Bucky Irving does. And the Bucs can still get by, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same. Like that last game against the Saints, I felt Sean Tucker was the better running back than Rashad White in that game. And they're kind of missing that juice, that burst that Bucky brings. And I think keeping Rashad White fresher has helped. Like, Rashad White was great in the short yardage situations, not last game, but like earlier in the year. He would get the 3rd and 1s. He would get the 3rd and 2s because he's a little bit bigger, a little bit more bruising. But that's because they were using Bucky Irving so much. Now Bucky's not in there. You're using Rashad White more. And I don't think it's a surprise that he didn't convert on the 3rd and 2. He got stuffed several times at the goal line. And it took, 8 attempts before they finally got in. And they got in with Sean Tucker, who you see on the screen there. So I'm going to give it a B minus because I do believe in the group moving forward. However, it definitely has been disappointing overall with these running backs.
And I think we can meet in the middle with like a C plus, as Hizo mentions here. I think that's a fair grade, especially because you mentioned it really well, like the pass protecting, the receiving ability. That's kind of been a plus factor for the running backs. But when it comes to Rashad White and even Sean Tucker, going forward until Irving returns, I want to see a more even split between the two. Like, Tucker is the more explosive, the more dynamic back. You saw it last year against New Orleans. And then, as you mentioned, last week against New Orleans, he was the better running back. And I think there's a lot there, like potential-wise. There was a comment before, like, this running back room has a potential. Like, they have the ability to be the best running game or one of the best in the league. You saw it last year. I think just right now, more things need to click. Obviously, Irving returning would be helpful. But right now, they just haven't performed like they did. And that leaves it kind of being a lot left to be desired.
No doubt about it. You're absolutely correct there. And they have slowly started improving the snap count percentage by increments. Remember, 2 weeks ago, it was 90% to 10% in favor of Rashad White. Last week, it was cut not exactly 50-50, but cut much more down the middle. Rashad White was at 55%. Sean Tucker was at 34%. And remember, Josh Williams got in for 6 snaps, which counted for 10% of the offensive snaps. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, Sean Tucker was the better running back that last game. That doesn't mean he's a better player than Rachaad White, but I think he has more of the ability to break a big play than I think Rachaad White does. Like Rachaad White, as much as I love him in the passing game, and he can run routes really well. I don't know. Maybe it's just a feeling I have, and going back and in watching games and stuff like that. A lot of the biggest chunk plays for Rachaad White, it feels like it's a screen pass where the defense is like able to see the play and they snuff it out and they just miss Rachaad White. So it's like they put all of this caravan into trying to stop Rachaad White. And if he's able to escape, then bam, it's a 30-yard gain, which is awesome. But it feels more, hey, we just escaped that. We got lucky versus like, wow, what a great 15 moves by Rachaad White to get down the field. Maybe it's just me, but they're kind of like living on the edge with the Rachaad White screens.
Yeah, and Rachaad White, he's a more explosive back in the receiving game, but Sean Tucker's a more explosive back in the running game. And I think in a passing league, you would give more snaps to White, maybe that 50, 55%. But Tucker, he should be getting the other 35, 40%, and then maybe continue sprinkling Williams in there.
Okay, let's talk about the wide receivers because there's so many different ways to look at this. I think Mike Evans and Chris Godwin Jr. have to get an incomplete just because they've been so seldom because of their injuries, and it's really unfortunate. So taking that out, I honestly think you got to give the receivers an A for how they've been able to really be productive, sometimes having Mike, sometimes having Chris, but also not having them too much. Now, I know the last two games haven't really been stellar in terms of like overall performances and what they've been able to do, but I'm kind of looking at more of the beginning of the season than the last two games. So I'm giving them an A overall, and then we can kind of break down some of the other players individually.
Yeah, the wide receiver room, Matt, is one of two position groups I have here that's listed as an A. Like,
nice.
you take Mike and Chris out because they're incomplete. Emeka Egbuka, an A grade. Like,
he's an A plus to me.
Yeah, he's an A plus. The predictions, you were like, oh, if Mike and Chris are healthy, maybe he'll get 50 catches, 600 yards, 7 touchdowns, or whatever. He's already done that through half a season, and he's been incredible. He's been a game-changing wide receiver already. And then you look at the other rookie counterpart here, Tez Johnson. I think he gets an A grade too, because for a 7th-round pick, his dynamic ability to make plays, catch that 45-yard touchdown, he's been more involved in the passing game, and you're seeing more of the player that he was at Oregon in the past couple of games. Like, he's really come on strong. I think he ranks 10th among all rookies in receiving yards. Just getting that production from a 7th-round pick is huge. And then also Sterling Shepard. Like, nobody expected this from a 32-year-old. He already retired. You're like, oh, he's going to be the 5th, 6th wide receiver. No, he's been the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, whatever role they need him, he's been in there. So I think I'm curious to get your thoughts on each of them. They've just played really well.
For sure. And like, again, Tez Johnson, we have to factor in, he wasn't really involved in the offense until 3 weeks ago. Emeka Egbuka, without a doubt, is an A plus. I know he's kind of slowed down the past couple of weeks, but let's also remember, Baker missed him on a throw. He underthrew it a little bit with him in the end zone against New Orleans. If that throw is on target and he makes another touchdown catch, I mean, we're talking about Egbuka probably getting close to around 100 yards and another touchdown. Plus, currently, he's still near the tops in the NFL. He's 7th in the NFL in receiving yards with 562. And let's remember, he went out at halftime pretty much against the 49ers. So that was a half a game right there. He's still been very productive. He's tied for 8th with touchdowns. So he's absolutely A plus. Tez Johnson, leading receiver last game for this team. He's an A, in my opinion, just because there's not as much of a sample size as Emeka Egbuka. But he's getting involved. He's making people miss. And he's making some tough catches, too. I know everyone wants to knock him for the one that he dropped, which he was wide open. But I'm more impressed by the catch he made on 3rd down to get the 1st down, where he got absolutely smoked on the play, which is going to happen a lot because he's the lightest player in football. But for him to make that catch and hold on to it, I thought it was big time for him. So he gets an A for me. Sterling Shepard, For his overall role, I'll give him a B plus. But him as a receiver this entire season, I'm just going to give him a B because
Yeah.
he's popped up here and there in big moments. However, he's not going to be a major producer for this team. Like last game, he only had 1 catch for 8 yards, but at the same time, he had a touchdown against Seattle. He had a big catch and run against the Jets in week 3. So I'm going to give him a B, but his role specifically, B plus. Cameron Johnson, I feel like it needs to be an incomplete as well because they used him so much against San Fran, and then they haven't used him at all ever since. So I can't blame Cameron Johnson for not getting on the field. Like, he did his job. He led the team in receiving yards against San Francisco, and it's only been cut down more and more and more. And then Ryan Miller, he had the touchdown against Houston. He's in there to block. He's not going to get a lot of targets. It's not his role on his team, on this team. So I'll give him a B as well. He's totally fine in his role. I think he showed that he can step up if need be. But those that they are relying on, I think, have been, without a doubt, exceptional.
And you're looking at, and we're grading 7th and 8th wide receivers on the depth chart, and we're still giving them B grades. I mean, that says something. And again, that's why the wide receiver room gets an A here, because the loss to Mike and Chris, you take any other team in the NFL and you lose your number 1 and your number 2 wide receivers, that'd be like the Bengals without Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Right. What are they going to do? They're not performing as well as what Tampa Bay is right now. And for that, you have to give so much credit to the Johnson brothers. Sterling Shepard, as you mentioned, just kind of filling that. He's that unk. He's that unk role. And he's filling it so well. And then Emeka Ibuka, again, drafting well, best player available. They got their guy. And again, just really incredible.
Some comments. He's 813 says, A for the receivers. None of them outside of Ibuka are starting for any other team, yet overall they are playing outstanding. Tyler Lovell says, Cameron Johnson and Ryan Miller are the only quiet ones this year. Ed Gain with a great comment says, Anthony Nelson gets an A++ receiver grade in limited work. And Tyler Lovell also says, I like Baker's initial take of Tez, a lot of potential. So, yeah, the receivers are trending in the right direction. I think with more experience for Tez, and who knows with Cameron Johnson, but if he's able to get involved more, this group should only be better. And you got to think Emeka Ibuka resting that hamstring this week with the bye week should certainly help him out for the second half stretch as well. And they are going to have a tough matchup against the Patriots when they come out of the bye, because obviously we all know about Carlton Davis and when he does that corner, a very physical corner, and then Christian Gonzalez is held in very high regard as well. So shout out to the Bucs receivers getting the job done with several players out. And that leads us to the tight end position, which has been kind of a regular mainstay. Cade Otton gets the majority of the reps. Cokeeft, unfortunately, had a season-ending injury with his leg. Payne Durham's in there to block, and Devin Culp gets about 3 snaps per game. But, Adam, what are your thoughts about the tight end position for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of thoughts on the tight ends because it's not the most glamorous position. I feel like Cade Otton was invisible the first few games, but over the past couple of games, he's come more alive as injuries to wide receiver have kind of moved him up the pecking order a little bit. But overall, I'd give them a C+ grade. I feel like what they've done blocking-wise, probably a B-. And then as receivers, a C. I mean, Cade Otton I don't think he's scored a touchdown this year, but he's still the second leading wide receiver. Like, he's done a lot the past few games, but again, just not like the game-changing plays from that position. Like, Josh Grizzard doesn't utilize the tight end a ton.
Yeah, that's why I'll give him a B. I think Cade Otton kind of pouring it on a little bit more the past couple of games has been important. Everyone else is pretty much in there to block. So I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't know. It's been good. It's been solid. It's kind of been exactly what I expected. You know, Cade Otton's going to be a 3rd or 4th option at best in this offense when everybody's healthy. He pitches in here and there. He makes some good play. Like, I love the play he had last game where he was like right at the yard marker making the catch and just bounced off the defender and then got like 5 to 6 more yards. So, you know, Cade Otton's always doing the dirty work, being able to get the job done. So I think a B is pretty solid. And then the offensive line is a polarizing topic because it kind of makes my head spin from time to time, thinking about this group and how they've shuffled the group and who's been in and who's been out. But tell me what you're thinking about this offensive line.
There's a lot of ways you can go with this offensive line. I mean, the offensive alignments that they've had to do, like game in and game out, they're moving guys left guard, right guard, center. I mean, everybody's pretty much played a different position. So I think when you take into account like all the adjustments they've had to make, I give them a B minus. I think that they haven't been incredible, but they haven't been as bad as you might expect them to be. Like Charlie Heck, right guard situation, whether it's Michael Jordan, Dan Feeney, Elijah Klein, Luke Haggard, they've had 4 players play at right guard this year. And that's really hard for an offensive line to do. So I think Kevin Carberry and Brian Picucci get A coaching grades for the offensive line, but the play really hasn't been what it was last year. And again, that stems to the offensive line kind of giving up pressure in the pocket where Baker Mayfield has to roll out. The running game, not enough lanes are being created. The most disappointing guy, I would say, Matt, along the offensive line to me has been Graham Barton. Like everybody's expecting Barton to kind of be this Pro Bowl center. Oh, Frank Ragnow retired. He's going to be a Pro Bowl center for the next decade. He's kind of taken a step back this year. And like, he's just kind of getting bowled over by Aleem McNeil and these bigger defensive tackles. There's a lot of room to grow. And having Tristan Wirfs helps. I think that he kind of lifts the grade up a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, this is a situation where the talent is exceeding the performance.
That's very fair. I'm going to give it a B overall. In fairness, I am kind of grading on a curve because they don't have Luke Gedeke. And then you had Graham Barton playing left tackle and Ben Bredesen at guard and all the changes that they've made. So I'm still going to give it a B. I'm not happy where the run blocking is, although they've had their moments. I always turn to, 3rd and 7, running the football against Seattle, getting that first down and setting up the game-winning kick. I think pass protection up until the last 2 weeks has been very solid as well. Baker certainly helps with that, but we can't look at the last 2 games and forget about what they've done the first 6 games before that. So I'm going to give it a B overall. I'm in full agreement with you, though. Graham Barton's been the worst offensive lineman for this team, which is scary. And I think Tampa Bay highly, highly needs to consider moving Graham Barton to guard and putting Ben Bredesen in at center. Because you can make the case right now, Graham Barton has been better at left tackle this year than he has been at center. And he's obviously not going to play left tackle with Tristan Wirfs there. It's week after week where he's getting pushed back. And when you have a smaller quarterback with Baker Mayfield, it's very difficult to kind of overcome that and puts more pressure in the pocket. And Baker, as much as he wants to stand there and throw, and he can from time to time, that's when he gets the high throws and the overthrows and some of the turnovers happen because he just can't see what's in front of him because he's a little bit of a smaller quarterback. So honestly, Graham Barton, him individually, I'm going to give him a C-. I want to give him a D, but, left tackle, obviously, he played well there. Tristan Wirfs, I'm still going to give an A because he's the best offensive lineman in the league. I'm not sweating about how he looked against the Saints. Bredesen, I'm going to give a B+. I think he's done pretty well in his role. Charlie Heck, I'll give a B. Again, kind of grading on a scale of that he hasn't let the game blow up for Tampa Bay. And then Mike Jordan, I mean, the first 2 games, I think he gets an A for what he was able to do. Didn't look great. I mean, no one looked great against Detroit. So I'll give him like a C for that kind of matchup. But yeah, overall, still more to be desired from this group that I think we have a lot of high expectations about, and therefore their grade drops a little bit more. But hopefully if Luke Gedeke comes back, you kind of round out the room. We'll see if Dan Feeney continues to start or if they put Michael Jordan in there when he's healthy or when Luke Haggard gets healthy, if they move him to that spot. But, I don't know. I think there's a lot of room for improvement with this offensive line in the second half.
And the last thing I'll say about the offensive line is with Ben Bredesen, I think he's the answer at center, and Graham Barton's the answer at left guard. I don't think they're going to make the move this year just because there's already been so many moving parts. But I think going forward, you can be confident with Graham Barton at left guard, Cody Mauch at right guard, and there you have 2 really athletic, intelligent guards that can kind of pull on screens and be a better part of the offense. I don't think Graham Barton's physicality, as you mentioned, is really meant to be at the center position. I don't think he's going to be that mauler that Ryan Jensen is, no matter how much coaching up you try to give him. On the other hand, Ben Bredeson, I think he has a good grasp of the offense. He seems like, I don't know, like Baker Mayfield's boy. Like he's a really like fun-loving dude, but he's also really tough. And I think toughness, you need that from a center. And I don't think Barton's the answer there.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And if you need answers with your help with insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Pewter Report Scott Reynolds has been a Briar Greaves customer for years, and there simply is not a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com to see for yourself. Briar Greaves Insurance is family owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family, whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance. Turn to Briar Greaves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. As 2 recent hurricanes have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost to living in paradise. Briar Greaves can help make sure you have the right hurricane and flood insurance to make sure you and your home are protected. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com today. That's Briar, B-R-I-E-R, Greaves, G-R-I-E-V-E-S. Or call their office today at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And tell them that Pewter Report sent you. And make sure you give Briar Greaves Insurance a call, see how they can help you with your insurance needs, and you will automatically be entered into a raffle to win free tickets to the Bucs Falcons Thursday night creamsicle game later on in December. So make sure you give them a call. We have a super chat to get to before we continue on with the defensive side of things. Thank you very much to Paul, a.k.a. OG Baker Bro, for this $10 super chat. Says, 6-2 at the bye speaks to the depth, character, and coaching on this team. Baker is obviously playing hurt. I think we return healthier after the bye, but I believe McMillan won't be back this season. So that was some of the big news. Todd Bowles on the Ira Kaufman podcast talked about how it's like broken bones that Jalen McMillan is working with. And that's certainly a scary situation because you're talking about his overall livelihood, let alone if he's going to be able to get back onto the football field. So we're certainly wishing and hoping for the best for Jalen McMillan. It would be awesome if he is able to return at all in any capacity. But I don't know about this year. Again, like this is not something that can really be messed around with because you're talking about, again, his life after football years down the road for him. So hopefully he's able to come back. But again, yeah, the depth of that's why you have Emeka Egbuka and why you also draft him and Tez Johnson as well, because they've been able to step up gigantically with everything else going on for this team.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say about McMillan, I mean, that news just came out like right before we did the podcast. We haven't fully dived into that yet, but I've always really struggled with the timeline for him to return because a neck injury isn't obviously something you want to rush because, again, you're looking at the man's livelihood and the rest of his career, hopefully. But like, you can't just put him out there in week 6 and be like, oh, he's going to be 100%. Like, no, you have to really let his neck injury heal. And especially if the report's true and he's dealing with these broken bones, I mean, you don't want to put him out there this season at all. I think you want to give him the whole season off, give him the whole off season, rest and recover. And then maybe you're looking at mini camp or something like that as a realistic timeline. Like, you see players all the time, they get a neck injury, their career's done. It doesn't matter what advancements you make in modern medicine. Like, I saw Nick Collins, the Packers safety back in the day. Like, he was making a routine tackle. He had a neck injury. His career was done. And God forbid that happens to Jalen McMillan because he's such a promising wide receiver.
It's sad, but it's true. And it sucks, too, that it happened in the damn preseason of any game. I mean, you never want to see it happen. And I can't help but think, like, what if this team had Jalen McMillan right now? How much that would help the group overall. But we're definitely sending our well wishes to Jalen McMillan. Hopefully he can get fully healthy and eventually help this team. But I agree. I don't think it's fair to put a timeline on it right now. We also want to give a big thank you and a big time shout out to all of our Pewter Platinum members. So thank you to Scott Federico, Scotty J, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Dave Anderson, Eric McMillan, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel L. Rican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Connor 4 Reels, Kevin Thomas, Mario Thomas, Leighton Carter, Brandon Riley, The Guy is Gifted, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Dominic Tarantino, HK Bucks, The Real Maverick, Brayon Pinkney, Brian Shucker, Black Gold 1999, Steve Zool, King James 813, Brian Green, and Henry Higante. Thank you so much for your support of PewterReport.com. Also, got to give a shout out to my guy, Todd. Todd gave us a very generous donation as well, and is essentially a Pewter Platinum member as well. So thank you very much, Todd, for your support of Pewter Report TV. Also, special announcement for Pewter Platinum members. Well, this part's not the special announcement, but we won't be having a Pewter Insider this week for Platinum and Premier members. Bucs are off, so we're taking the week off with the Pewter Insider. But the special announcement for Pewter Platinum members, please make sure you email Scott Reynolds. His email is sr@pewterreport.com with your own email address and your physical address, plus your t-shirt size, because we're going to be sending you some new Pewter Report swag. That's right. Some new PRTs are on the way. So please, at your earliest convenience, please email sr@pewterreport.com with your address that you would like it to be sent to and your shirt size. So you'll have new Pewter Report swag coming soon. So we'll leave that on the screen for a little bit. Okay, let's talk about the defensive side. Why don't we start with outside linebacker, because we have a defensive player of the week with Anthony Nelson. But man, outside linebacker has been pretty up and down this year.
Yes, it has. And I think right now, when you take into account Anthony Nelson had a really good game, he looks to be a guy where he's comfortably the third outside linebacker. He was playing 30% of the snaps, but I'd like to see him get maybe 40 to 50 kind of going forward. I'd give him a B+ right now. And I think with Yaya Diaby, he's had 3.5 sacks in the last 3 games. He's looking more like that ascending pass rusher everybody's wanted to see. But even Hassan Reddick, I don't think like 1.5 sacks really does him enough justice. I feel like he's been really good at applying pressure. It really just hasn't converted yet. Like kind of like the Yaya Diaby of last year, where you're like, he's so close to kind of breaking out. And I think when he does come back, he will get a few more sacks. He might not have 8 to 10 like everybody's wanting, but I could see maybe 5-6 sacks for him this year. But overall, I think it's a solid top 3 where you'd be comfortable kind of plugging and playing them, like depending on the matchup. A lot of it's going to depend, though, Matt. Can Nelson continue making splash plays the rest of the year?
Yeah, that's a big time question, because we don't know how long Hassan Reddick is going to be out for. It's funny with this outside linebacker group, because they look like a group that doesn't pass the eye test, but they pass the statistical test in terms of like the pressures they generate, QB hits, and then the sacks are coming along. Because really, up until that San Fran game, I'd probably have the outside linebackers at a C-. But then, as you mentioned, Yaya Diaby has really picked it up over the past couple of weeks with several sacks. And then Anthony Nelson had the game of his career, so you have to factor that in too. So I'm going to go with a B because of that. I'm still an advocate of like, you got to take the quarterback down. I understand that many times the quarterback will go and just get rid of the ball quickly. But I'll give it a B, although it is trending in the proper direction. Now, for the interior defensive line, I'm going to give that an A. Vita Vea is still one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He's been able to get the job done without Kalijah Cansey. Elijah Roberts, I think, has emerged as a much better defensive lineman than we expected for a 5th-round pick. And, you know, he's going to turn into that guy that's going to be the next option after Kalijah Cansey, like next season when he's fully healthy. Logan Hall has had some moments here or there. Elijah Simmons has had some moments here or there. And Greg Gaines is kind of filling in admirably. So I think this group has really been able to keep everything afloat without Kalijah Cansey in the middle next to Vita Vea.
Completely agree. I'd give the defensive line an A- for where they've been right now. I think Elijah Roberts, he's played so well that you can kind of say bye-bye Logan Hall, like after the season, like if he asked for too much money, because
Right.
Elijah Roberts has more playmaking ability as a rookie. Like what he did at SMU, I think is really converted to the NFL level where he's an athletic defensive tackle, kind of the same size as like Logan Hall. I think he's like 285. But more than that, like he just has a knack for being in the right place at the right time. Like you've seen him have that fumble recovery, getting a couple chip in sacks. Like I think for an interior defensive lineman, he's really come on strong. You have Vita Vea where he plugs up run lanes. Outside of the Seahawks game, they've been pretty good stopping the run. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is Jahmyr Gibbs. He broke a 78-yard run off, but otherwise, I feel like they stopped him. And Todd Bowles, like he always has a really good run defense. It requires good defensive linemen, and I think they fit that role.
Yeah, I agree. I've been pretty impressed with this group. I'm not going to let a couple of good rushing performances allow it to dictate, how good this group is. So, yeah, I think it's been a really good group. On the other hand, the inside linebackers, not exactly the best of group. Now, Levante David has picked it up over the past couple of games. He's still a legend overall, but 35-year-old Levante David is certainly not Levante in his prime. And Servassier Dennis, we are in Halloween season. It feels very Jekyll and Hyde. His stock will be up one day, then down the next game. I'm going to give this group a C because the bad has been like glaringly bad, where the good has been solid. Now, there's been some awesome moments. I mean, Levante's interception against Sam Darnold in Seattle helped them seal the win. But I just don't trust them on a weekly basis. Servassier Dennis, I don't trust on a weekly basis the way I do with other positions. So I'm going to give the overall grade a C. I'm going to give Levante a B because he's made some splash plays. The sack on Mac Jones, the interception, like I just mentioned. And Servassier Dennis, I'll also keep at a C just based on his fluctuating play.
Yeah, I have the same grade for the inside linebackers. I'd give them a C as well. I have Servassier at like a C-. I feel like he's come along a little bit better in recent games, but still, in pass coverage, I look at all the different plays that he gave up early in the season. Even, I think recently, a game or two ago, he gave up another like 25-yard gain to Jahmyr Gibbs. So
right.
You look at that, and there's doubt that he's going to be that long-term linebacker. But Levante David, I see him as like that 35-year-old. He's playing like it, where you see that he's kind of lost a step, but he can also turn back the clock and get a sack or get an interception. So I think right now, a C+. It'd be better if Levante was second best linebacker on the team and not the first best, where you're relying on him to play every single snap and be that guy. Like he's just not it anymore, but he's still done enough. So I think right now, inside linebacker is a C, and it's the one position where, like, if they were to make a move, it would be for an inside linebacker.
I agree. I was saying that the other day where it's like, I did have my concerns about outside linebacker, but then Anthony Nelson did what he did last game. And I'm not as worried now at outside linebacker. It's more inside linebacker for me because I don't love the idea of Deion Jones as the next man up and having no other options. I know there's John Bullock and there's Nick Jackson as well, but I'd like to see. I mean, at this point, it's probably like another kind of 30-year-old veteran inside linebacker that maybe they would trade for. But I like the idea of having like two of those players with Jones and whoever they trade for versus just one of those guys and then a completely inexperienced player. So, yeah. So we'll see if the Bucs end up making a trade. It feels like they're not really going to, and if they do, it'll be like a 6th or 7th rounder for again a depth piece, not a big time trade. So we'll see with that one. We'll see with it coming up. They're going to have all weekend to talk about it before the trade deadline. So that's good that they don't necessarily have to focus on a game when it comes to the trade deadline. Before we get into the corners and the safeties and little special teams, we got to talk about Splash Sports, the official daily fantasy app of PewterReport.com. You can join over 2.5 million people playing on Splash Sports, the home for Survivor, Pick'em, and Quick Picks. Whether you want to create your own contest with friends or take a shot at life-changing prize pools, Splash Sports has you covered. They have different prize pools and tournaments and contests every single week. I just joined one for this week of the NFL with their pick'ems. You pick every single game with the spread, and I joined a contest. It was $10 to enter. First place through, I believe, 40th place ends up winning money. So you can win over $1,000 by winning this pick'em. It's a ton of fun, inexpensive as well. And also with the quick picks, I do it every week for Bucs games, some other matchups. Right now, Splash Sports is doing a monster match because it is the Halloween season. They're going to give you a 200% payout boost on quick picks, but you have to put in those quick picks by the end of tonight. You can still do it for the weekend and whatever game you're watching in the NFL, but you have to do it by tonight. So download the Splash Sports app. You can see it on the QR code on the screen and get that monster match 200% payout boost on Splash Sports. Turn $20 into $1,000 with the best multipliers in daily fantasy sports. Shout out to Splash Sports. Okay, the cornerback position. How is it not an A+? How do you feel?
Yeah, I have an A-, only because of Zion McCollum. Okay. I feel like he's been good, but I wanted to see him really take that next step as a Pro Bowl corner. Like, he's another guy where the talent is an A, but the production hasn't matched it yet. Like, he only has 3 passes defense, no interceptions. Like, he's not that guy yet. But instead, Matt, Jamel Dean is that guy. Every week he's making scenes. Like, he's been an A+. Benjamin Morrison, I kind of struggled with him. I'm like, probably incomplete right now. Like, you haven't seen a full Benjamin Morrison out there. But then the guys like Jacob Parrish, who he's been another A+ guy if we're counting him at corner. Like, he can play nickel. He can play outside. He can also make a ton of plays out there. And he has 2 sacks. I know the Buccaneers communications team, they're kind of trolling people right now. Like, they have Jason Light as their profile picture on X. And, like, they're attacking the NFL. They're like, no, it isn't Jahad Campbell and Abdul Carter, because Jacob Parrish has, I think 7 pressures on 12 snaps. Elijah Roberts has been really good. And you also saw Kindle Vildor out of nowhere. Like, he was tripping. Like, when he caught that interception, he didn't know what to do with it. But the cornerback room, they've been fantastic.
Yeah, I have it an A+ because I have Dean and Jacob Parrish as an A+. Like, what he's doing as a rookie in the slot has been awesome. Jamel Dean, 3 picks, a pick 6, and the forced fumble as well. So the 2 of them have an A+ for me. Zion, I'd have as a B, like kind of what we talked about, not meeting expectations, but not getting beat badly or anything like that. Morrison, I think he's been solid when he's been in, but he's only playing like 20% of the snaps each game, so it's kind of tough to really grade that. And then, hey, Kindle Vildor comes in and plays. Didn't look great against Seattle, but then had that pick against San Fran, so I think that kind of cancels it out too. So I'm still going to stick with an A+. And then I also have an A+ at the safety position. You look at Antoine Winfield Jr., he's looking like the all-pro Antoine that he was 2 seasons ago. And Tyke Smith leading the team in tackles, involved up at the line of scrimmage, involved further back. I mean, he's really making this a fantastic tandem at the safety position. But how do you look at it?
Yeah, safety tied my wide receiver grade for the highest. I gave them an A as well. I know you, Scott, and even Bruce Arians all talked about the officiating when it comes to Antoine Winfield Jr., so I'll save my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But it was egregious. But Antoine Winfield Jr., he's really bounced back strong from, missing half the year last year. Like, he's looking more and more, I think, as the weeks go by, like that safety he was in 2023. And then on the other hand, Tyke Smith, he's transitioned so well to safety. Like, this is the best case scenario for Tyke Smith right now. Like, he's a leading tackler, and it's not because, nobody else isn't doing their job. It's because he's been all over the field. He has 8 passes defense, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. All he needs is an interception or 2, which will come. But he's playing like one of the top safeties in all of football right now. So you have those 2, Matt. Yeah. They're the best safety duo in football.
I would hate seeing them at the Pro Bowl because it means that they're not in the Super Bowl, but wouldn't hate seeing them get some Pro Bowl nods and a shout out. Because remember, the all-pro year for Antoine Winfield Jr., he did not make the Pro Bowl. He's been in another Pro Bowl before, but kind of crazy that when you're an all-pro, you don't make the Pro Bowl that season. So, yeah, that's the offense and defense. Special teams, we can go through it real quick. Adam, what do you have for the overall grades?
So I have kicker Chase McLaughlin. You can argue he's an A just because he made a 65-yard field goal and he's been really good as of late. I'm knocking him down to an A minus just because for the early season struggles, he missed a couple of kicks.
Yeah.
People were starting to be concerned about his job security, but he's quelled all concerns. He's played like the best kicker in football right next to Brandon Aubrey, I think, for like the past 5 or 6 games. And then when it comes to Riley Dixon, I would give him a C. I think he had a couple blocks early on, but he's kind of settled down a little bit, and he's still booting the football. Like, he'll launch 60-yard punts, no problem. I think the rest of the way, it's going to be those net yards for the punt. Like, you want to pin him, and I think he has done a better job of it. I just want to see more consistency there.
So I'm mostly in agreement. I'd give a B plus to Chase McLaughlin just because some of the misses have been like crunch time kicks, like the Atlanta one off the post. But, if you look at the last 3 games, it's an A plus. But I'm going to say B plus. I agree with everything you said about Riley Dixon. It's a C, and he's gotten better, so that's a good sign. Return game wise, I'm going to give Cameron Johnson an A for punt returns. It's not easy to have good punt returns, but he's provided some really great sparks this year for sure. As he's out 813 says, Chase is an A even with the early season struggles. And then kickoff return, I'm going to give it a C plus. They had one good return with Sean Tucker early in the year. I think it was against Atlanta. Outside of that, they haven't really truly provided a spark, but it hasn't been really an issue one way or another. So
with the punt return, I will say that I understand why they kept Cameron Johnson on the 53. Like,
yes,
his ability to return punts has been incredible. Like that Eagles game, like he was averaging 15 yards a return. He was really solid in that game. And really just overall, you haven't seen a punt returner do that in Tampa Bay for a while. But the kickoff returns, as you said, it's been pretty average.
Yeah, I get the feeling with Cameron Johnson, every time that he's back to return a punt and I don't see him going for a fair catch, I have that feeling that he can break it for a touchdown. And I still wouldn't be surprised with 9 games to go for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that he might be able to go and break one. And I like having that feeling that he might be able to take one to the house every single time. So that is that's pretty fun to see. It's going to be really fun to watch this team as well coming out of the bye. They have some tough matchups with the Patriots and the Bills and the Rams. That Rams game is on Sunday Night Football. But then the schedule really opens up after that. So I kind of feel like the Bucs, if they go 1-2 against those 3 really good teams, they're going to be in a great spot. And then if they go 2-1, that'll be even that much better.
Yeah, and it's funny because at the start of the year, they played like the Texans, the Jets, the Falcons, all teams that haven't been playing so well. But coming out of the bye week, they're playing teams that are combined 16-6 between their first 3 games. But then it opens up so much after that. Like they play the Saints again, the Panthers twice, the Dolphins. I mean, there's a lot of winnable games there.
Yes, there is. Just a reminder again to all of our Pewter Platinum members to email Scott. His email is sr@pewterreport.com. Send him your address and your t-shirt size, as Pewter Report will be sending you some Pewter Report swag. So keep on the lookout for that. Also, some other notes. No Pewter Insider this week, but we do have a special bonus show. It's not a live show, but it was pre-recorded. Bucs PFF grades discussion with Dalton Wasserman of Pro Football Focus. A great interview was had by Pewter Report's own Josh Capo and Dalton Wasserman of PFF. They talk about kind of how the grading goes. Josh Capo had a couple of gripes about the grading. They talk about Vita Vea and some other Bucs players. So you can watch that show tomorrow. It'll be coming out on Friday. And then on Monday, we are back to having on Super Bowl winning head coaches from the Bucs. John Gruden, the first Super Bowl winning head coach for Tampa Bay back in 2002. He will be on the show on Monday at 4:00. Very excited about this one. We'll talk about Gruden's time coaching Tampa Bay, winning that Super Bowl, his thoughts on the current team, all he's doing at Barstool Sports and Fox and all the other social media and media stuff he's got going on. It's got an awesome YouTube channel. So very, very excited for Coach Gruden on Monday. It's going to be a good show, a great time. Looking forward to all the content we have coming out. So everyone, make sure you enjoy this weekend. Enjoy watching all of the football. If you're not already doing so, please make sure you're following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We're at Pewter Report. And our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video how you feel about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into the bye and out of the bye as well. Hope you all have a happy Halloween. Have fun dressing up, doing whatever you're doing. Have a good time. Try not to get in trouble, but have a great time regardless. And enjoy watching all of the football this weekend. I know I'm going to be watching plenty of football and very excited to do so. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. For Adam Slavant, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you soon for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.